Hi, this is Curious Mystics Podcast, formerly Spiritual Mamas Podcast. Together we explore the mysteries of the spiritual world, sometimes boldly,
Sometimes cautiously.
but always with open hearts
And curious minds.
Let's go. Hi.
Hello.
I'm Aericka.
And I'm Kim.
Welcome back.
We appreciate having you here.
For sure.
How you feeling today, Aericka?
I'm feeling okay. I feel actually, so we just recorded, we're so off sync right now, but we just recorded one with Eric Zajac for the hypnosis. And that was like such a fun episode to record that I'm feeling like all this like energy off that, I think. So that was really nice to kind of get like another boost, another person's energy into it. So I don't know, I'm feeling spicy today.
Charged and ready to go.
Yes.
I love that. I agree that having that specific episode I enjoyed recording, but having sometimes a mix-up and having somebody else on can kind of be like, oh, okay, let's refresh, re-energize. And so
Not that I don't like talking to you every day, but
no, and we just had this conversation.
Yeah,
you
we
and
did.
I fall into this sync because it's just how we are. So it's you know, it's nice sometimes to just take that in a different direction. I am paying attention to the noise going on outside. I'm doing really well and actually a little hungry. I have been.
Like, do we need to pause to go get you a snack? Because we can just edit it out.
I know. No, I'm going to be fine. I promise.
Okay.
It's funny though, because the other day I was talking to a client at work and my stomach started grumbling so loud and it was in person. And she's like, are you okay? It's like, I'm fine. Thanks. Thanks for asking. She's like, we wrapped up. She's like, you need to go eat something like right now. I was like, thank you. Thank you for noticing.
Nice.
But I think I will be okay today.
Okay.
So today we're going to talk about superstitions.
Ooh, okay.
I am excited about this. I was excited doing the research for this episode. Off the top of your head, are there any superstitions that come to mind that you've heard of throughout your life?
I mean, there's definitely, knock on wood. There is, oh my gosh, you put me on the spot. That's like the biggest one I could think of.
Yeah.
Like
we
right
will
off
talk about it.
the top of my head. But there's tons. I just can't think of them right now.
So when I went into this, I started with that, with knock on wood, and they just started flowing out, like all these ones: walking under a ladder, breaking a mirror.
Oh, there we go.
Seeing a black cat. And we're going to talk about spilling salt, all of that. Some of these I'm going to go into a little bit more detail, and some of them I'm just going to highlight a little bit. But overall, superstitions were created from a desire to explain the unexplained. And some sort of correlation. In some cases, there's more of an understandable connection between certain things, but other times it's hard to recognize how those things correlate. So, for example, walking under a ladder, you can understand, or I could understand, why that might be a superstitious thing to do, because people could get hurt, right? If you're walking under a ladder and somebody's on that ladder, it could throw it off and that could cause, injury or something like that. But then other times it's like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. Why would you think that those things go together? Such as like bad things come in threes. Why would that be something? One. Right?
Briefly. In the medical world, in the nursing world, we always everything happens in there's always death in threes.
Mm-hmm.
And we're kind of, okay, medical people, nurses especially, are kind of morbid. And, I mean, like, so you'd have like one or two people die, and you're like, all right, who's next?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's gonna be so and so next. Where's the third? Where's the third? We were always,
Yeah.
you know. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
not laughing about that, but it is kind of funny.
But how that happens is like, how do we get to that point of this becomes correlated to events? If something terrible is happening or something unexpected happens, the expectation that there's two more things on the way before that
Mm-hmm.
cycle is complete.
Yep, yep.
So superstitions, you can find them around the world in different cultures, religions, backgrounds, spiritual practices. And so we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the ones that are more common or well known across cultures.
Okay.
If we go back to walking under the ladder, we talked about why that might be unsafe. From a religious perspective, a ladder leaning against anything like a wall forms a triangle.
Mm-hmm.
And that has often been linked to the Holy Trinity.
Right.
So each side and the ground coming together. If you are walking underneath that ladder, it is viewed as breaking the Holy Trinity or blasphemous and attracting the devil.
Oh gosh. Don't do that.
Right. You wouldn't want to do that. You definitely
No.
don't want to do that.
No, thank you.
There is something that I found that you can do to protect yourself if you happen to like not be paying attention and you walk under the ladder, so you've broken the Holy Trinity. You can protect yourself by crossing two fingers and keeping them crossed until you see a dog.
But what if I don't see a dog for a really long
Uh-huh.
time?
What if
Oh
you
dear. Oh dear. Okay. Okay.
There were other things that you could do, and I didn't write them all down. I wrote that one down just because I thought it was interesting. Like, and I'm not really sure how that is the thing that protects you.
Mm-hmm.
Not really making sense, but apparently that was the belief: is if you happen to walk under a ladder, then you want to cross your fingers and hold them that way until you've seen a dog.
I think I'll just not go under any ladders, and then I'll
Yeah,
be all right.
yeah.
All right.
I'm just going to pause real quick because I think regardless of whether or not you believe in this superstition, you may tend to follow it anyway. Like I typically avoid ladders when I see them propped up.
Yeah.
And subconsciously, that might be because I've heard plenty of times like, oh, that's going to bring you bad luck. Don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Aside from religious perspectives, culturally, there are some cultures that have held a strong belief that nothing should be held over a person's head.
Mm.
So this is why you wouldn't want to walk under a ladder. Your head must be protected at all times. And in some of these cultures, you may find that they don't even have second stories on their homes. Like,
Oh,
we don't
interesting.
want anything that could be held over their head. So don't pass under a ladder. Don't walk under a waterfall. Don't do anything like that.
Hmm.
And the ancient Egyptian culture viewed triangles as good luck and sacred. So
Mm-hmm.
you can see that when we look at pyramids and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
The idea was that good and evil spirits existed in the space within the triangle. So this is both positive and negative. But walking through that triangle would disrupt the spirits and that could make them angry.
Yeah.
So that would be a different type of perspective on walking under ladders. When you start to see that there are different religious, cultural beliefs or spiritual beliefs about these ideas or superstitions, it can make a little bit more sense as to why across the board people tend to agree on some of these superstitions, even if the background behind them might be a little different.
Mm-hmm.
So the top 3 superstitions that people tend to identify with or believe the most is walking under a ladder, breaking a mirror,
Yep.
and black cats.
Okay.
So we're going to talk about breaking a mirror.
Okay.
Have you ever heard of if you break a mirror, you get 7 years bad luck?
Yes, definitely. I'm wondering, I have a thought in my head as to what that goes to, but I'll wait to see what you say.
Well, why don't you tell me what your thought about
Okay.
that is?
Well, because remember when we did the death and dying
Yep.
one, was it the Celtic
Mm-hmm.
religion or Celtic
Yeah.
culture? They turned the mirrors around so that
Mm-hmm.
the spirits couldn't get to them and get confused, and they wanted them to just go out the window. They didn't want
Yes.
them to get stuck in the mirror, get confused by the mirror. So
Yep.
I'm wondering if, like, if you break the mirror, then the spirit gets stuck in there.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm positing.
Yes. So there's two parts to this. Specifically for the 7 years of bad luck, what I found was that in ancient Roman culture, they believed that the soul would regenerate every 7 years.
Okay.
So if you broke a mirror, then you need to wait 7 years for your soul to regenerate. And so that's
Oh,
why
okay.
that number was attached to it. However, just in general, even if you take out the 7 years, there is a very wide belief across cultures and spiritualities that breaking a mirror will result in bad luck in some form.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of it does have to do with the uh the spirit and how that could be held. So
Mm-hmm.
when a person dies, some spiritual beliefs find that the spirit can be trapped in the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
So you turn it or you cover it in some way so that the spirit can release from the body, from this plane, and go into wherever it needs to go. The other idea behind it may not have to do with death, but if a mirror is broken, and it has trapped a spirit in it, if there was presumably an evil spirit trapped in that mirror,
Mm.
breaking that mirror would set that spirit free.
Oh, yeah,
So
you don't want
then,
that either.
yeah, that could bring you bad luck. There's also an idea that that mirrors can ward off spirits, so spirits don't want to get trapped in the mirror. So if you break the mirror, then it allows spirits to come to you because they're not going to be scared of being trapped
Yeah.
in the mirror.
This is probably wildly off topic, but I keep thinking about, like, the trope in scary movies where when they close the mirror, like,
Yeah,
the bad thing is in the mirror, like, either,
yeah.
like, the monster or it's behind you in the mirror,
Hmm.
like, it's like I just keep thinking about that. I was like, maybe that's where that idea for those movies came from, is that it's always in the mirror.
Yeah. There is very much this underlying belief across systems that the mirror can reflect your soul, can
Mhm.
be an opening for spirits. So whether it's to trap them or to highlight them or whatever.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think that's kind of the basis of breaking the mirror. So you don't want to do that. Preventing spirits from being trapped would require the mirror to be covered. So if that person has died, you're going to cover the mirror, you're going to turn it so that the
Mhm.
soul doesn't become trapped and it can freely go, like we had talked about before. There's also some ideas that if a person has died and you are in the same room, I can't remember if it's like in the same room as that person in that moment, so like at a wake, or if it's in the same room that that person died in. But if you break a mirror after that person has died, then your spirit is at risk, and so you want
Mm.
to be cautious to avoid mirrors during those times.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I did hear of a couple different remedies about how you can prevent the bad luck after breaking a mirror if
I
it
was just gonna
happens.
ask that. Yeah, I was just gonna ask, like, do you know how to fix it?
Yeah. So, one of the things, again, I saw a lot of them, and the links will be in the show notes so you can, look at all of them, but I only wrote down one or two. One of the things that I found was that you can grind the pieces down into like a powder so that no reflection can be seen in it anymore. And that can help to reverse whatever bad luck may have come. And then another one that I found is that you can take those pieces and send them down a south flowing river so that whatever um, bad luck or omens or anything that was attached to that will be taken away from you.
Okay.
Now, if you don't happen to have a south flowing river
I know, I was like,
nearby, then I'm not really sure
So
what
you
you
have to
do in that
grind
moment.
it, I guess.
Yeah, then you'd probably have to resort to grinding it. And of course, you want to be careful with that. You don't want to like hurt yourself in the process. But
Mm-hmm.
um, so that's the mirrors, and then black cats. So have you ever thought of seeing a black cat as like a good thing or a bad thing specifically?
No, I mean, I always heard about it.
Hmm.
Um, that like, oh, it's bad luck if it crosses your path. But I'm like,
Hmm.
I always thought it like went back to witches, and I'm like, I don't really
Yeah.
think that that's true. But is it Hecate, the
Hmm.
goddess? Is she associated with black cats?
Yes, she is.
Okay.
Yes, she is. So what I found interesting is that I always grew up hearing like if a black cat crosses your path, then that's bad luck. And
Hmm.
what I found in doing the research is that that is very much a Western idea.
Okay.
Uh, in many places in the world, black cats are associated with good luck.
Oh.
So if a black cat crosses your path on your wedding day, your marriage will be very fruitful. If a black cat comes into a room with you, it is bringing in fortune and good luck.
Hmm.
Um, from a religious perspective, black cats have been related to Satan, the occult, evil, witches. There is written documentation of this in an official church document from like the 13th century
Okay.
that a pope wrote. So,
Pope's like, no black cats.
yeah, yeah. So some of that could be because of like independence of cats. Cats are known to be very independent. They're known to not really
Hmm.
um, vie for attention or anything like that. So there could be some idea of that and
Hmm.
relating it specifically then to witches and you know the audacity of women to
Right.
believe that they could have power and you know do things on
The
their own,
audacity.
right? um Culturally, spiritually, I said many places have viewed black cats as bringing in good luck, so there's the reverse of this, and depending on where you go, that may change. I was talking to a couple different people as I was doing this research and asking their opinions, and obviously they're all here in the United States and New
Hmm.
England, so they have heard a lot of that like negative talk about black cats and how they could be bad omens, but individually within their families, like one of my friends was saying that her family is very traditional Italian, and so
Hmm.
they believe, you know, that they're much good luck, much better luck than
Okay.
what we would believe here.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like anytime I see a kitty, I'm like, "Ooh, yay!"
Yeah,
But just because I like cats.
yeah, yeah. I think when it comes to black cats, I've always heard that they are bad luck, which I guess this says more about me than anything. But hearing that, I have always been like, oh, let me go to that cat, that
Yeah,
black cat right there, because everybody says it's
exactly.
bad luck and I don't believe it. So let's figure this out.
Well, I mean, there's um because of that,
Hmm.
black cats and black animals in general
Hmm.
in shelters are the last to get
Yeah,
picked.
I have heard that, and that's
Isn't
so
that sad?
sad.
I know. Go get a black kitty. Okay, like it's okay.
Do the
They're not
world
going to
some
be bad
good.
luck. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, friends, we just wanted to take a moment to remind you all that you can interact with us on social media. We can be found at Curious Mystics Podcast on all platforms.
And if you haven't already, please take a moment to like, subscribe, and share so that we can keep showing up for you guys with new weekly episodes and content. Thank you for hanging out with us so far and
Stay
stay
curious.
curious.
Uh, so those were the top three. So the cats, the mirrors, and the ladders. We're going to talk about a couple more in depth, and then I'm just going to list some that we've heard of that I didn't do too much more research into because this was getting, it could go on and on, really. So knocking on wood, and this is what started this whole thing. I was thinking about that saying and how people do it and what it looks like and where it came from and what it means and, all of that. So I started to look into it. Spiritually, there is a belief that protective spirits could reside in nature or in wood. So
Mhm.
knocking on wood was meant to alert them when you needed extra protection,
Okay.
which makes sense when you think about when you say that.
Mhm.
Saying, knock on wood for good luck or for protection, or I hope this thing doesn't happen again.
Mhm.
I'm hoping for a specific outcome, and then proceeding to actually knock on wood. Culturally, there was a children's game. Today, this would be known closer to tag. Um,
Okay.
but back in the day, I can't remember what it was called, but today there is tag, and tag has a base. So
Mhm.
you touch the base, you're safe. Um, Symbolizing that you're protected when you're touching that.
Okay.
In the UK, in Britain specifically, the phrasing is to touch wood or to knock on wood. And
Mhm.
so when children played that game, they would say, touch wood.
Yeah.
And that meant that you were safe.
And that makes sense because a lot of like you're often running to a tree or
Mm-hmm.
like somebody's house that was probably made of wood, you know?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah. I thought it was a little interesting because today I hear people say knock on wood, but not
Mhm.
actually follow through, or they may like knock on their head or whatever's close by. And just so the intention is there without the actual act of it. And
Mhm.
I was curious if you have any thoughts about that, if that still applies in the same sense, if it still means the same thing when you're not actually following through.
I don't know because like I try to actually find a piece of wood when I
Hmm.
say it. So
Yeah.
I believe that if I'm not actually knocking on wood, that it's not going to work
Yeah.
to a degree. I mean, as much as a superstition is, but and now that you're saying that it's to like knock on wood for the fairies or for the spirits, like I feel
Hmm.
like yeah, it's not going to work if you don't actually knock on a piece of wood.
Hmm. Yeah, I agree. I personally I won't say it unless I have wood nearby to knock on.
Yeah.
But I have seen people do that all the time where they'll be like, knock on wood, and then just knock on their head, and it's like, that's
Yeah.
not quite the same.
Yeah.
And now I'm thinking, taking it even a step further, although we've talked about in the episode about frequencies and energies, we know that everything has a frequency, even
Mhm.
in your home. But I wonder if it makes a difference if you are going out to a tree to knock on wood versus knocking on, this door frame or this wooden door that's here
Mhm. I
because it's
mean,
been changed in some way.
I think if we're going with it's an actual thing that's going to work, I feel like actually touching a live piece of wood would probably be your best bet.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm feeling like any wood is better than
Hmm.
none.
I'd be interested to know what people think about that because it's something that becomes so part of your day to day or so part of your life that people may not know, like where it stems from, what it means, or even
Mhm.
recognize that they're saying it without actually doing it. So I'd be interested to know what
And
people
it's
think about that.
interesting because like a lot of superstitions I don't necessarily believe in, but I actually definitely
Hmm.
use that one in like a playful but meaningful way. Like,
Yeah.
no, I kind of really do mean that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Like I have very much a specific intention when I am saying and doing the
right?
act of knocking on wood.
Like if someone says, I'm like, you better knock on wood. Like, yeah.
Yep. So that
Interesting.
that was
Finding
the
out,
big one.
finding out my own little idiosyncrasy, I guess.
Hmm. Um, this one, I'm going to talk about spilled salt a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
This one is interesting just for me because I have found that I have been doing this more. Um, so much so that I did it in a restaurant the other day, and Michael was like, "What the hell is wrong with you? Don't do that in public."
That's funny.
And I'm like, "Okay." So, spilled salt. The superstition is that it will bring bad luck to spill salt, and so you must pick up a pinch of that salt and throw it over your left shoulder
Okay.
to prevent that bad luck from happening. The background: there are some beliefs that to share, take, or break salt with someone, kind of like breaking bread, was a sign of friendship and positive protective factors in that relationship.
Okay.
So spilling salt, typically you're around salt when you are at a dinner table with people. So spilling salt would symbolize carelessness for that relationship or some sort of challenge in that relationship. So then you'd have to protect that relationship by throwing a pinch over your shoulder.
Okay.
So that was the background around it. We have in this home the big boxes of salt, and so they kind of like spill out underneath. So I'm constantly like picking it up and
throwing it.
whatever. Yeah. But so I've started to pour it into a small like salt shaker, and for whatever reason, at this point I don't believe it's the people in this house. I think it's spirits. Every time I walk into the kitchen, the salt shaker is like knocked over. And I'm like, what is going on here? And so I'm not the one who knocked it over, but I see it and I pick up a pinch and I throw it over my shoulder
and do it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Spirits are messing with you.
I know. I'm like, what? What are you trying to tell me here? This is wild. Because it's never happened before. And then all of a sudden it started happening a lot recently. So then we were at dinner the other night and I had accidentally knocked the salt shaker off the table onto the floor. So when I went to go pick it up, I like threw some over my shoulder. And he was like, why are you doing that in public? I'm like, you don't want this relationship to be, thought of as careless or having any challenges. So
he's like, okay.
Yeah.
So the salt one, like I didn't hear until I feel like later in life. Like it wasn't something that our family really ever said, I feel like. And it's not one that I ever really associate with at all. Like I still salt, like whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I've always heard of it, but it's not something that that I had to do often. It's not like people were spilling salt all the time or that I was spilling salt all the time.
Right.
Until recently. But because it's been happening so much more, I feel like that's why I'm getting more into it, because I'm like, oh, this must be happening for a reason. So something needs to be addressed here. Okay, I have a couple more that I'm going to talk a little bit more in depth about, and then I'll just go over some other ones. But this one is very, as far as I know, very specific to Latin or Hispanic cultures. So tell me if you've heard about this one before. Sweeping over somebody's feet. If you sweep over someone's feet, that person will never marry.
Oh, okay.
This is a very deep superstition in my family and my culture. So people tend to try to be out of the room when you're sweeping so that you don't accidentally sweep over their feet.
Okay.
I have accidentally swept over someone's feet before, and he was not very happy about it.
I'm just saying, you're in trouble.
It was not on purpose, but this is something that I have, always heard growing up, and something that you can visibly see, like, oh, that person's sweeping, mom's sweeping, everybody get out of the room. Get out of her way, let her sweep. Nobody wants to be around for that.
Why is it a thing? Like, what do you know why that started?
I don't know the background behind it. I tried to find it and I couldn't find anything clear. It's as far as I know, there are plenty of Hispanic cultures that believe this, but none know where it came from.
Okay.
You can reverse it.
Okay.
You have to spit on the broom.
Okay.
Also doesn't make sense.
I'm trying here. I don't know.
Yeah. So when we talk about superstitions being used to explain the unexplained and making sense, this does not fall into that. Like in any way, shape, or form, I can't think of how this adds up.
Mm-hmm.
But for some reason, people were noticing that people who didn't get married must have had their feet swept over.
Apparently. Interesting.
So, yeah. Yeah, it's if you ever find that you're sweeping over somebody's feet, they need to spit on the broom so that they
Okay.
take
So
off the
like,
effect of not getting married.
I'm trying to think. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I think if I swept over anybody's feet and if they are married, I don't know. So go ahead.
Okay, and then this one is another big one that I think a lot of people have heard, whether or not they resonate with it. But the number 13 being viewed as unlucky.
Mm-hmm.
It is also another one that I have found is seen as more unlucky in religious or Western contexts as opposed to in other areas of the world.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the things that were highlighted relating to the number 13, Judas
Yeah,
was
I
the
was just gonna say
13th
that.
guest to the
Mm-hmm.
Last Supper.
Yep.
So we all know how that ended.
Mm-hmm.
Loki, the god Loki,
Mm-hmm.
was the 13th guest to a dinner party in Valhalla, which
Oh,
went awry.
okay.
So very similar there. Mathematically, 12 is considered to be a perfect number.
Mm-hmm.
There is 12 months in a year. There are two 12-hour shifts in a day.
Mm-hmm.
So to follow the number 12, any number that would come after that would be lacking in some way.
Yeah, makes
13
sense.
happens to be it.
Mm-hmm.
That though, this is something that I very much see as a Western thing, because in other cultures they have different numbers. Like the number 4
Mm-hmm.
is viewed as unlucky in some Asian cultures, and I think, if I remember correctly, that has to do with how the number 4 is pronounced. It is very similar to how the word death is pronounced
Okay.
in some of those cultures. So,
Makes sense.
yeah, this could be a Western mathematical viewpoint. What I did find interesting, which interesting just to be interesting, because I don't know that it actually means anything, but the Code of Hammurabi,
Okay.
I think that's how you say it. I don't know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is one of the world's oldest legal documents.
Okay.
So defining certain laws and things like that. The 13th law was accidentally omitted when it was translated.
Hmm.
And so that was viewed as a sign. It must have been omitted because it was bad luck for some reason.
Okay.
When in reality, it was probably just an accident.
Somebody didn't describe it correctly.
Yeah.
Did you, I don't know if you're going to say this, but did you know a lot of, is it like hotels and buildings don't have a 13th floor?
Mm-hmm. That is a Western thing too. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of buildings might skip the 13th floor because of the association with bad luck.
Mm-hmm.
Similarly, I was seeing things about like Friday the 13th and why I have always liked Friday the 13th. I think I have always been drawn to it because people make such a big deal out of it. I don't know. But actually, that reminds me of somebody I was talking to who makes it a point to go on a date with their spouse anytime there is a Friday the 13th. That is date day.
Okay.
Which is interesting.
Is it to like counteract the bad juju?
Yeah, I don't know.
Or just it's just a thing to do.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's well, I think in their relationship they have some like witchy beliefs, and so for them 13 is not a bad number.
Yes, it's a fun thing to do. Yeah.
Yeah. So and this is a similar to like the black cat thing, where in a lot of cultures there may be a lucky or positive viewpoint of the number 13. Ancient Egyptians was another culture where they saw this as a lucky number. So that was a lot of like our main ones that, and swooping the feet is not necessarily a main one, but for me, it has always been. So some of the other ones that I thought of that I just didn't get too far into, unexpected visitors. there is this belief that if a broom falls or a fork falls, then visitors must be coming. And I have always heard of it as like if a fork falls, a visitor must be coming. But then I remembered that movie with Sandra Bullock, Practical Magic.
Mm-hmm.
And in the movie, they talk about a broom falling. So visitors must be coming. Itchy palms.
I was just going to say the itchy palm.
Yes. Did you ever hear of it specifically as like one palm means one thing and the other palm means another thing?
I heard that there's if it's the palm, you're going to get money. And if it's the back of the hand, you're losing money.
Okay.
I think.
Interesting.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
I have heard of it that if it's your left palm, then you are receiving money. And if it's your right palm, then you're giving money away.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, I'm not really sure if there's like an understanding across the board of what you can do in those circumstances. But I have heard some people specifically talk about what their beliefs are, and that if your palms are itchy, not to scratch them. Mm. If you want to make sure that it happens or that it doesn't happen. So if it's your left palm, you want to make sure that you are going to get money. And if it's your right palm, you want to make sure that you're not going to give money away. Mm-hmm. That you should rub your palms on your jeans, your pants, or something like that. Okay. But don't actually itch them or scratch them.
Have you heard of itchy feet meaning something?
No.
I have, and I can't remember what the meaning was. It was like if the soles of your feet itch, it was something, and I can't remember.
Oh, that's interesting. I'll have to look that one up.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, usually if my feet are itching, I've like been in the pool too long.
Yeah, right? Our family used to say if you sing at the dinner table, you're going to marry a crazy spouse.
Oh.
I have no idea where that came from, but it was always...
Were there people testing that theory?
Yeah, because like someone would like let's say when I was started singing at the dinner table, like my mom or dad would be like, "Don't sing, you're gonna marry a crazy spouse." Like that was always a thing. I don't know if it was just so we wouldn't sing at the table because it was impolite, or but you don't sing at the dining table.
Good to know.
I don't know why.
I've definitely done that.
I don't because I don't. Well, I didn't marry a crazy spouse, so there you go.
It must be true.
Yeah.
A couple other ones that people may be familiar with is leaving your purse on the floor. If you leave your purse on the floor, money's going to flow away.
That I feel like is a Hispanic thing.
Yeah.
Because I had never heard that until I worked in our office that we met at.
Yeah.
And a lot of the staff were Hispanic. And I remember, do you remember the one? One time I put my purse on the floor. She come running in my room. She like, don't do that.
Yeah.
Like, don't you know that's bad? Like, you shouldn't do that. I was like, I'm sorry.
You don't leave your purse on the floor.
And now I don't.
Mm-hmm. Now you know.
Yeah.
Finding pennies face up is good luck. Finding pennies face down, I don't know if that means anything, but it's only good luck if it's face up. I've also heard of, and this one's a little gross, but bird poop.
Yes.
If a bird poops on you, that's good luck.
Yes.
I've also heard of babies pee. If your baby pees on you, it's good luck. But I feel like we say that just to make somebody feel better.
I feel like that's a thing, I'm pretty sure. Just want to make them feel better.
Stepping on a crack, breaking your mother's back.
Yep.
Like children's rhymes here. Splitting a pole while walking with someone is thought to cause a rift in the relationship.
Oh. And
in order to undo it, you have to walk. Whoever split the pole, I don't know how you're going to determine who did that if you're both walking on opposite sides of it, but
right.
Someone veered off path and split the pole. So when you split the pole, that person must walk back, retrace their steps, and come around the pole the other way.
I do that all the time. So apparently I have a lot of bad luck. I need to stop splitting the poles.
Yeah. Maybe that's where it's coming from.
Maybe.
And then the last one, and this one is something that I've always kind of just stuck to without really understanding or knowing what it means or where it came from. But don't open your umbrella inside.
Yes. Very much have heard that one, and I do not.
Yeah. I I have yelled at people for trying to open umbrellas
Yes,
inside.
me
Um,
too.
it's
And
not
inside the
something that we do.
car.
Yeah.
Don't do
It,
that in the car.
you just don't do it, and I
You
don't
just
know
don't do
why.
it. It's bad luck, but I do not know why. And maybe because you could stab someone's eyeball out. I don't know. Um, I've always heard the one, don't, if you don't make that silly face, your face will be stuck that way.
Oh, yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
I know that's just like a funny thing that you say to your kids, but I feel like there's like something behind everything you say like that. Like,
Hmm.
yeah.
Yeah, so I'm interested to know if any of these resonated with anybody and if there's any
Hmm.
more that like your family grew up or your culture or something you grew up saying or believing or following, even if you don't understand where it came from.
Hmm.
Because a lot of these, I don't know where they came from, or they don't have a clear
Hmm.
like origin, and being able to kind of pull out all the superstitions and let us know if you actually follow them.
Hmm. Definitely. Yeah. Right in. Let us know. That was a fun one.
Yeah, I had fun going through it and like finding the information and then kind of talking to people about it as I was learning more information.
Yeah. Message us, let us know if you've had any cool ones. Like I would love to do like a follow-up episode and see what anybody wrote in. Um, and so please review us, like us, subscribe to us on whatever you listen to again,
Hmm.
so we can keep this going and reach lots of people.
Tell your people, tell your parents, your friends, your coworkers, your enemies, tell everybody.
Your enemies. But don't tell them
Listen.
about this one though, that they get the bad luck.
Yeah. Actually, tell them if they don't listen to us, it's bad luck.
There you go.
I'm making up superstitions
We're
now.
making it. We're making it true.
All
All
right.
right.
Until next time.
We'll see ya.
Bye.
Bye.